Guys, I plan to close out the Odyssey today. I hope you've enjoyed it. For me, this is a riveting, up and down, topsy-turvy, vividly imagined and beautifully executed story, an adventure story. And so I hope you've enjoyed it. And I've got a lot more good stuff to come after we're done with the Odyssey. As always, I try to use these as an introduction to a great work, not exhaustively covering it, but inviting you to learn more, pursue it on your own, as with Dante's Divine Comedy, which is what I covered earlier. Now, the way the Odyssey closes is there's a kind of revolt on the part of the angry parents who hear about what Homer calls the, quote, dreadful murder of their sons by Odysseus and Telemachus. They rush to the palace, and here is the father of Antinous. This is the first guy who was killed by Odysseus. This scheming man, meaning Odysseus, my friends, has done us all monstrous wrongs. First, he took good men off to sail with him and lost the ships and killed the men. So this is a guy who's blaming Odysseus for the loss of his men. Now he has come and murdered all the best. Come on, before he sneaks away to Pylos or Elis, we have to act. We will be shamed forever unless we take revenge. So here you see that even though Odysseus is king, he's not a king without dissent, without enemies, without people who want to get him, and a kind of battle erupts. Halitherses, an old warrior, tries to dissuade these angry fathers, but they can't be held behind. They can't be held back. And so they charge at Odysseus, and he kills a bunch of them. So this is actually now getting out of hand, because it's one thing for Odysseus to be killing the suitors who were directly invading his house. It was really a home invasion, if you think about it. They were tormenting his wife. They were plotting to kill his son. Odysseus had every right. Here, it's a little more, again, Odysseus is defending himself. They're the ones who assaulted him, but to some degree, their rage is also understandable. You can see Homer has this exquisite balance where, throughout the Odyssey, Odysseus has been telling us, oh, my men did this, that's how I lost them, I tried really hard to save them. But of course, the fathers of these suitors don't see it that way. Odysseus went off with these men, he came back, they didn't. What kind of a leader is he? He's the one who's responsible for their debts. So this is a fracas that is really getting out of hand when essentially there's divine intervention. And this is really how the Odyssey closes. Athena kind of jumps in the middle. And she says, first of all, to the fathers of the suitors, back off. Ithacans, stop this destructive war. Shed no more blood. Go your separate ways. And her visage, her appearance is so terrifying that they all kind of cower and back up in terror. Now, interestingly, Homer says, unwavering, Odysseus let out a dreadful roar and swooped upon them. So Odysseus he's not scared. He wants to fight on. But essentially Athena turns around and in a somewhat gentler voice says, Odysseus, you are adaptable. You always find solutions. Stop this war or Zeus himself will be enraged. So here is Athena appealing to Odysseus's well-known good judgment and his craftiness. I think what she's saying to him here, and this is the way in which Homer, he never just makes a divine command, like, oh, Zeus is telling you that's why you should do it. Essentially what Athena is saying to him is, listen, Odysseus, you're the king of this country. This is the aristocracy of your society. Now, yes, their sons went out of hand. They tried to usurp your throne. You have dealt with them in a just fashion, but you're still going to have to rule Ithaca after this. You don't need more bloodshed. In fact, what you need now is some form of reconciliation with these families, because they have, after all, lost their own sons here. And so the best course of action is to call a halt to the bloodshed. Enough. There's been enough bloodshed abroad. There's been enough bloodshed at home. And so in the closing lines of the Odyssey, we see Odysseus turn to Athena. Essentially, he kind of gets his bearings. You can kind of imagine him, swallowing his Adam's apple, kind of goes up and down. And Homer tells us he was glad to obey. In other words, he saw the wisdom of what she was saying. He was able to exercise a kind of rational control over his anger. And then Athena makes everybody present swear a solemn oath that they will continue with basically goodwill and openness to each other, and they're willing to work together. And so we have these two magnificent epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey, both taking segments of the Trojan War story. And even though these are segments in which the bard kind of starts where he wants and ends where he wants, they're remarkably self-contained unto themselves. And yet, when you read them together, they make a perfect complement, the one to the other.